Good morning, I'm Raquel the Bell on the one and only WWNN 1470. Today in the studio we have Tracy from We Are the People. You can join her every Monday night from 7 to 7:30 p.m. on her website, wearethepeople.tv. Tracy tackles the student loan dilemma and offers viable options. And now, here's Tracy.
Good evening. This is Jeff Van Trees. I'm filling in for Tracy here in person. Tracy is on the phone right now. This is an interesting role reversal, wouldn't you say, Tracy?
Yes, I would.
So you got the
technology is awesome now.
Right. You got the host calling into the guest, which is not a normal scenario, but that's what we're going to be doing tonight.
Well, thank you for being there for me, Jeff. I really appreciate it.
Oh, happy to do it. I know car trouble is never fun. It's happened to all of us, and we're going to work our way through it tonight.
Well, yes. I mean, mine's at the fix and repair daily mark. So, anyway, it's great. It's great that you're there for me. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. I think I'll let you do the introduction.
Well, as most of you may know, Jeff Van Trees has been on the show many times before. He is an attorney, and I thought he would be a great person to discuss the debate with. I knew I was supposed to be doing something else again, but I thought that this was just a little bit more important. So I'll come back to the super PACs of the for-profit educational system next week. As I also told you last week, I'm actually filming tomorrow. It's going to be a 2-show program that has to do with how the media has influenced mainstream religion and where we've gotten all this crazy religious stuff that so many people think is normal. But for tonight, we are going to discuss the debate. So, Jeff, we've got CNN, a private corporation, controlling the presidential debate. They decided who was invited, who asked what questions, and the location. So that's basically, in my opinion, and the opinion of many, pretty much exactly what happened with Fox News during the Republican debate.
I think that you're absolutely right. I think that's how information gets filtered. People the candidates are ultimately asked questions based on what the media and the higher ups want them to say, and the conversation, sort of goes from there. I think we saw that with the Republican debate with Fox News and with CNN to a certain extent, and that's why Trump, being the Frankenstein's monster of this whole process, was going crazy with Megyn Kelly and everybody, because he just wasn't playing by the rules. And that's something it's sort of the political game that's played, is that, if you want to get positive press coverage, you kind of have to play by the rules, and that those rules, unfortunately, are written by those that own the press, those that own the media. And the media really is, if you think about it, it's really a system where you have large corporations that are selling audiences to other corporations. And so, the debates, especially now that the ratings for these debates are astronomically higher than they've ever been, they're ultimately, they're sponsored. They got sponsors that are advertising during these debates. So, you're right. The media control is a bit troubling here.
Well, it's a huge money maker. You've got 6 corporations that control 90% of the media in America today. And as much garbage as there is on the internet, I honestly feel sometimes that there's more truth to actually be found there. And speaking of the Republican debate, I don't know. They just seem so much more contrived to me this year. The initial question out of the gate with the first Republican debate was definitely set to get this whole thing stirred up with Donald Trump. And although I enjoyed the quality of the questions much more on the Democratic debate, I still felt like it was very contrived. I didn't like it. And then you've got Debbie Wasserman. Now we've only got 6 debates, 6 Democratic debates. In 2008, there was 26. I mean, they're cutting out. Nobody really gets to see what anybody thinks with 6 debates. How can you articulate anything? I mean, it's something that you build over time.
And it's unfortunate because this year you're having a lot of people that are tuning into these debates that otherwise wouldn't. When you hear from people that have run for office, they always say that debates are basically for people that already have their minds made up. And that was true when you would have these very low numbers of these ratings for these debates of a couple million people. Now that we're having over 20 million people, some astonishing figures for some of these debates, you're bringing in lots of people that wouldn't otherwise be viewing them. So this would be really a great opportunity to have more debates from both parties, certainly.
Absolutely. Well, the Republicans have quite a few more. And, I mean, a lot of people are blaming this on Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I mean, her reputation is going downhill fast, to say the least.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens with her. I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think that the Congresswoman Schultz is to blame for this?
Well, I do. I mean, they wanted to get rid of her back in 2011, and she started screaming anti-Semitism and, oh, I'm a woman, you're getting rid of me because I'm a woman. But she's got a reputation for being all out for herself, and she's posturing her whole career around Hillary. Now, these are things that I've heard time and time again, yet when you looked at the audience, when you listened to the audience, everybody clapped for Hillary. I mean, it was minimal applause for the other candidates.
Right. Well, right now the other candidates are Bernie Sanders. The other two, Jim Webb and Lincoln Chafee and Martin O'Malley, are pretty not only pretty low in the polls, but I think that the response to their performance was pretty low. So I mean, right now it's Hillary, Bernie, and on the horizon if Biden decides to get in. But for those of us that would like to see Bernie get a fair shake, you're right. It seems as though Hillary, he's not going to be able to outspend Hillary, certainly. And then when you combine that from what appears to be some favoritism from the DNC, it's not, that might not be an equal playing field.
Yeah, it didn't. I just didn't feel, and I kind of put that off to the side, but honestly, when I heard the applause, it was really bad. As far as Bernie himself goes, I mean, he was the gentleman as he always is, and I like that. But I think he let a lot go by where he could have made some more valid points.
I think there were. I was just going to say, I think there were a few opportunities when he could have hit a few home runs, and he really didn't. There seemed to be some real missed opportunities. There certainly was also a number of points in the Republican debate where there were some huge missed opportunities to really drive some points home, especially when opponents were saying things that were really leaving them vulnerable to attack. Here with Bernie, especially with the whole explain the socialism thing. I mean, if that's something he should have seen coming, and I thought he sort of fumbled that a little bit.
He did. I really felt like he ended up on the defensive with that, and that's his strong suit. Normally, it's from what I've seen, he's done much better of articulating it at other venues and online and such than he did that evening. I don't know what happened there, but I was kind of disappointed, to be honest with you.
I mean, I thought that it was, he was talking about billionaires and millionaires and wealth inequality, which we've heard on many occasions. What he occasionally talks about, and he really didn't touch on during the debate, that I would have liked to have heard him talk about, is the role that, for example, the Justice Department should be playing in prosecuting fraud on Wall Street. He wasn't really talking about that. He was talking about taxing the wealthiest individuals at a higher rate, but he wasn't talking about stopping fraud. He mentioned it, I think, once, where he said that there's rampant fraud and Wall Street regulates Congress. rather than the other way around. And those were all valid points. But I'd like to hear how he would go in and actually try to stop some of this stuff. And we've talked about it on the show before with some of the before the housing collapse in 2008, how there was just rampant securities fraud going on Wall Street. What he would do to prevent the next collapse. We have a number of financial institutions right now that are considered too big to fail. The banks have gotten bigger since the 2008 crisis, and that's something that he certainly should have talked about more with respect to the capitalism socialism dichotomy. It seems like it should be a pretty clear explanation for where he stands, which is that we don't have. I mean, why would you concede that we have a capitalist system now when capitalism, the whole concept, is premised upon competition, and we have financial institutions that are getting so big to fail that they can't possibly be competitive. In a competitive market, nothing would ever be too big to fail. That defeats the whole point. If something in a competitive capitalist open market system, if something is operating in a manner that is less than above board, it's going to go under. But that's not what we have now. We don't have things going under. In fact, they just get so big and morbidly bloated that they have to be supported by the taxpayer.
Yeah, well, think about it. Those subsidies are going to companies that already have billions of dollars in profit. Wouldn't they be better off spent towards starting small businesses, towards, smaller companies that should be getting these subsidies to help them get these new businesses? We need jobs. How many jobs have went overseas? How many jobs have been lost to automation and will be lost to automation? And, did they even talk about the TPP, really?
Not much at all.
That night, so I missed a little bit here and there. And, speaking of that, I just wanted to mention that I was surprised at the amount of people that came out to the debate watch that had not made their mind up.
That was surprising, and it makes you sometimes wonder whether these candidates are they're like sports teams to a certain extent. It's like who's your favorite team, as opposed to which platform do you find most appealing, and who's going to ultimately make the political process less corrupt. I think there was another missed opportunity that was there for the candidates, especially for Bernie, which would have been to have discussed the fact that they were having the debate in Las Vegas, which is, the casino capital of the world. And and that's really sort of a very poignant analogy that could be made with Wall Street and our financial sector, which is why it collapsed in 2008, is that it was operating like a casino. It was taking people's savings in their retirement accounts and so forth, and ultimately just gambling with it as though they were at a casino. It's the heads I win, tails you lose concept, which that's actually, I think, a very good teaching tool for what's wrong with our financial system. Is the heads I win, tails you lose. It's, in other words, it's like if I went to the casino and I was gambling with your money, and I get to keep the winnings if I win, and if I lose, then I'm not out anything, and you lose your money. That's sort of what was going on in Wall Street for a long time. They were misrepresenting the integrity of financial instruments, and you just had rampant fraud going on. They were taking people's savings that were supposed to be kept in relatively safe investment strategies, and were going out and Wall Street was using that money to engage in wild speculation. I'm sorry, what's that?
And no prosecutions for this. They basically took people's money, threw it out the window. They still made their money. Now they've ruined people's lives, and nobody was prosecuted for it. No one was held accountable.
All they did was agree to settlements. I mean, just think of how absurd that is. If somebody robbed a convenience store, burglarized a house, could you just tell the prosecutor, well, I'll just settle the case. I'll just buy my way out of going to jail. I mean, that would never fly. Yet it's working. Yet it has worked on Obama's watch, unfortunately, with Wall Street, where you've had a lot of people in suits that should have gone to jail that that there were no criminal prosecutions. And I think that that's another fundamental thing that really needs to be part of the discourse. Yet another missed opportunity here would have been to talk about the issue of violating the law as a cost-benefit analysis. For most of us out there, we think of the law as something that has to be respected. We can't violate the law willfully, but some of these very large financial institutions that are quote-unquote too big to jail, it's ultimately an economic decision. It's cost-benefit. If the odds of getting caught are low enough and the penalty is low enough, then we'll violate the law and hope that we don't get caught. And it's done as a purely a business decision. And there's something that is really, really wrong with that picture. And that's, if there's any role for the commander-in-chief, it would be to address that, because that ultimately corrupts the whole system. It's all interrelated. It goes back to Citizens United. It goes back to corporations being people. It goes back to the idea that there's the only purpose of a corporation is to serve its shareholders, and now the government, as an extension of corporate power, is doing that, and it's only serving for the best interests of the top 1%.
Well, yeah, you have this issue not only with the banks, but with the oil companies, the drug companies, the munitions companies, and even the auto and mining companies, and also the media companies. Come on, you've got 6 corporations controlling the media. Look how little was covered in that debate. I mean, I think, and how are we going to break up these big people? How are we going to break up these big banks, these big media companies? Oh my God, the media companies need to be busted up as much as the banks do.
Well, we've had antitrust laws for over a century now. That's going back to Theodore Roosevelt, since we've had antitrust, and yet we don't see it being enforced. In fact, we see the proliferation of monopolies and duopolies and other forms of competition, of uncompetitive markets. We've all seen it. We've seen it with telecommunications. We've seen, mergers, and the result of that is higher prices, worse service, and it's just, going downhill. I think that it would be great to have a very serious discussion with the candidates with respect to whether there should be a constitutional amendment to have public financing of elections. That really would be the only possible solution to this, would be to make it that it's a constitutional requirement that candidates can only get money that's publicly funded. They cannot get it from private donors.
As well.
What's that?
I said I think it needs to be capped as well, because I really don't think they need to be spending billions of dollars on trashing each other. I mean, that is just,
Well, it would be whatever it would be. It would be the same for everybody. It would have to be the same for everybody. To give one person more of a voice than someone else is really problematic, and that's the way it is now. And that's ultimately determined by access to deep-pocketed donors.
And then I think we need term limits in Congress as well, because these people obviously wield way too much power. They're too, they get ingrained. They're bought by these big corporations, whichever interest it is. I mean, Boehner's gone now, but I mean, this show's about student loans. They owned him.
Yeah, the banks own everybody, certainly. Just talking a little bit about the issue with respect to colleges and universities, Bernie did talk a little bit about having a tax on Wall Street speculation, and that would be used to fund so that everyone could attend public universities for free, which that just didn't seem to be much conversation there. But if you think about it, if everybody could attend a public university free of charge, I mean, you could just imagine how you would unsaddle so much of the United States, especially with millennials that just have huge amounts of crushing student loan debt. And really, these are not people that deserve to be, living under these conditions. We're a debtor nation, and it seems to be that nobody in a position of power is interested in trying to remedy this. Bernie appears to be.
That's going to put everybody out of business, because when nobody has money, there's nobody to buy. I mean, the wealthy can only, they can only sustain so many people. You know what I'm saying? the little guys downstairs aren't going to get anything. I mean, these stores that you see that we walk by and drive by every day, they're going to, how will they be sustained if nobody has any money? And, I think another thing they didn't mention, now Bernie with Medicaid, if we were to do Medicaid for everyone, I mean, that's like $15 billion, which actually costs less. Several economists have looked at this. They said it actually costs less than what we're paying now, and over a 10-year period of time, you'd save $10 trillion. Okay, that would pay for everything that right there that Bernie is talking about, and then you'd still have $2 trillion to put towards our deficit.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Mentioned.
Yeah, Medicaid expansion really should be a no-brainer for the states that haven't done it. It's quite outrageous. But yeah, it should be a Medicaid, or really what it should be is a Medicare for all system, single-payer system.
Yes, Medicare. And everybody would be covered. Okay, now so imagine a world where you didn't have to worry about medical, you didn't have to worry about child care, okay, and you didn't have to worry about college. All that money would go back into the economy, and that was a point that was never touched. I just feel like there was so many things that just did not happen in this debate, and with only 5 debates left, what hope do we have of articulating these types of things?
I don't know if it occurred to you, but when I was watching the debate and they were getting into a very embroiled discussion about foreign policy, and they were going on and on about Serbia and Russia and all these issues in the Middle East, and they were talking about a no-fly zone in Syria and whether the U.S. should be enforcing a no-fly zone, and whether they should, shoot down Russian aircraft that enters in a no-fly zone. And it sort of occurred to me, what a great opportunity when they were in this, in the middle of this morass of a discussion. If somebody said, why are we worried about that? What does that matter to the average person that's got laid off or has student loan debt or can't pay for health care? We're worried about a no-fly zone halfway around the world. That's just talk about having your priorities messed up. That's what our elected officials are most concerned about.
Yes, well, Syria, Afghanistan, and Iran all have one thing in common, and that is that there are no Rothschild banks there. So again, this goes back to the banks. This goes back to things being controlled. If they're talking about that, that's CNN. They controlled the questioning.
Right, they did, but it would have been a great opportunity for the candidates to talk about where this should fall in the priority. But of course, the candidates are also bought by or most of them are bought by the same financial interests that own the media. So they're going to try to make us absolutely as afraid as possible about the Middle East, even though the Middle East really hasn't changed as much as we thought. If anything, it's gotten much worse as a result of U.S. Involvement and entanglement in Iraq. It's gotten infinitely more dangerous, and yet it's like a drug. It's like the only thing that they keep telling us is that we need to be involved more. We need to continue bombing them. We need to have more American soldiers' lives lost, and that's going to one day solve it, and the Middle East is going to become peaceful. I mean, it's insanity is always defined as doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I don't think they expect a different result, but they expect us to believe that they're going to get a different result. The next time.
Program,
Yeah, it's always going to be the next invasion,
and they don't want to take care of them.
Right.
Okay, so soldiers come home and they get inadequate medical care. You have them living on the streets. We have homelessness problems. And the culture is that you point the fingers at the people that are in the least position to take care of themselves and blame them. And this is what America has turned into.
Oh, no question about that. I'm looking at the clock. I think we have a couple of minutes left. Is there any other topic? There was a lot discussed. Anything you'd like to we should talk about for the next couple minutes?
Well, I mean, I just, again, we've got only 5 people debating. I think everyone that is running for president should be allowed to debate. I mean, I realize that Jim Webb, most of the time, he he just complained about not having enough time, and, Lincoln Chaffee, he didn't really have a whole lot to say. Martin O'Malley pointed out that they were treating each other like civil adults, which that was very nice. I mean, the Republicans, it was just ridiculous the way they bickered back and forth like children. But again, I mean, really, it's only between Bernie Sanders and Hillary, and they are limiting Bernie Sanders as much as they can, because they want Hillary as their candidate, because they don't think Bernie can beat the Republican. But I don't know. I think he's going to surprise. There's so many Republicans that are really taking a serious look at him now, and I think that's worth talking about.
Hillary is the only one, is certainly between the two, is the one that has Wall Street support, and is the only one that's really going to be able to have the type of exposure and publicity and political ads going against the Republicans. So maybe that's their concern. But if that's the only thing that's determining it this early in the game, then really that's a pretty sad situation if it's just based upon that alone. But we haven't had a candidate in ever like Bernie that's advanced this far. We've certainly had third-party candidates that are independent, but as far as having someone that's truly independent like Bernie, that's pretty unique. Very similar appeal that a lot of people have had with Donald Trump is that he appears to be politically independent. But anyway, we have almost no time left at all. They're playing us out, so I'll let you do the ending.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us, and we will be back next week. If you'd like to join me, Jeff, I'm going to be talking about the super PACs that have to do with the educational system.
Great. Look forward to it. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great evening.
You too. Good night.
A hustle here and a hustle there. New
You
York
have
City
been listening to We Are the People with social advocate Tracy Marks, who every week bring to the light the needs and changes in our current system. Tune in every Monday night at 7 p.m. on WeAreThePeople.tv and participate in the conversation in the chat room or call 888-565-1470. Tune in next Monday for more information and facts, and stay aware of your surroundings and challenges at all times.